G'day folks, well in this video I'm going to solve the crazy Earth planet puzzle and I'm going to reduce it to a circle cube. As with all of the videos in this series, all 8 of them, the links are in the description to where you can buy them if you'd like to. And as I say, in all of them pretty much they are an awesome set of puzzles, so they're well worth having a look at if you've never seen them. Now with the Crazy Earth has the white face, which is a one face, so the centerpiece is turned. The green face is also a one face, so we've got these two adjacent faces where the centerpiece is turned with the faces, and all the other faces are zero faces. So that's the setup we're faced with. Now this is the third of the puzzles that we're going to reduce to a circle cube. So Mercury was the easiest, and then we've got Venus, and this one here, it differs from Venus. Venus had the yellow and the white, so the opposite faces were one faces. This one has the, as I said, the green and the white. And so what we're trying to do is basically the same thing, but it does cause some more issues. So this is probably the hardest of the reducing to circle cubes, in my opinion. Now, first step we're going to do is to place the yellow edges like normal, and we can just turn them up as we can. That one there can go up. Now this one here, because we've got the green face, we can technically, in fact this one here, we can turn that up and onto the yellow face. Normally we wouldn't have that green face there, so we couldn't do that. And then with this yellow one, we can put it onto the green face and then do the same thing. And we have all of our yellow edges done, yellow circle edges done. Now the next thing is essentially to forget about the green face, so we don't care, we're not trying to solve that. What we're trying to do is these other three faces. We're going to begin by using the white face to place the middle circle edges, and we'll do that just as we would have with Venus, for example. So I see down here a green circle edge, and because I said I'm not going to do the greens, normally I would place that up there, but I don't care about that at the moment. So the other one is blue and orange. So with the orange I can turn that down, put the orange on, and then put it up, and that's done. Blue, I can put it into there by turning it off. And so this is of course just edge piece series placing these things. Now I've got another orange sitting here, so what I might as well do is turn that off, put its position down and put it on, so you can see the middle circle edges are being made. Now I don't have any more blue or reds down here, so I'm going to get them from somewhere else. So for example, I really want to get the red to place here, so maybe I'll take this red off, and to do that I'll pretend that I'm placing a white in here which will bring the red out. So to do that I can just carry out that edge piece series, and it does put a white in here, and you'll notice it also brings the red out. And once I then go and place that red in, it's also brought the orange out, which means I can go, oh, in fact I've got the oranges, so I don't care about that. What I'm missing is a blue circle edge, so let's get the blue from this green face, put it down onto the white face, and then go and complete that last central edge. And I say last because, as I said, we're not concerned about the green. So we've got the three oranges, or the two orange edges, the two blue edges here, and the two red ones. That's the first phase. Now the next phase is to do the lower edges, and to do the lower circle edges of those three faces I'm actually going to use bits from the top. And so let's have a look. Firstly the blue, I want to place a blue in there. Now what I'm going to do is turn that position onto the green face first of all. Now notice for example that there's a blue here. So what I'm going to do is carry out an edge piece series that involves this green face and this yellow face, and that's the key thing, because when I turn the yellow face those yellow pieces don't move. So I'm going to move this to here, and the blue will come back down to here. And you remember that was the position. You can see that green's stuck, which means when we complete that and put this back, what we find is that that blue piece is now in its position, and all of these central pieces have also not moved. So that's our general technique. What about a red? Well, we'll move the red position to there and do the same thing, placing that red onto that position. put it back and it's in. And then we've got an orange. So what about the orange? We don't have any oranges up the top, but we can fairly straightforwardly do that. So I'll move this orange up to here just for the purposes of getting it up there. So now I've got an orange in position. I can move the orange's position over to the green face and then do the same thing. Do this sort of movement over to there. Now, having done that, I'll turn that position back and we'll have a look around. We'll see that the middle ones and the lower one of these three faces are now in place. And that just leaves the upper edges to do. So I'll check the one at the back first. That happens to be done already, so that's good. What else have we got? I want to place an orange one in here. So to do that, what I'm going to do is turn the orange down to the bottom here. So I don't want to do it from these middle positions. I want to do it so it's on the bottom of the top. And I'm now going to move this to here and then move the orange into that position and then undo those moves. So I'll undo all of them for completeness and then we'll turn this back. Remember I turned this face initially and you'll see that now that orange face is done, the blue face is done. We've just got the red to do here and you can see a red here, so it's very simple. Position on, red up, back into position, complete the moves, and what you'll see now is that all of the circle edges are done apart from white and green, and they're very, very simple because now we just go ahead and because we've got these faces surrounding it which are zero faces, we can for instance turn the green up to here, put a white in position and undo those two moves. And again, all of this is just simple turns and edge piece series. Very, very easy to do. Let's get this green to here, this green to here, and the white back to here. You can see as long as we carry out the full set of moves, everything returns to where it should be. And for the last one, let's put the white up there, and now we'll do this piece movement here, so that when we turn that green on, it goes onto the green face. There we go. And as a final move, we undo that setup move. We did it like that, and that puts everything back. And you can see that that has completed the circle edges of this puzzle. Now, the next stage of the solve is to reduce our outer edges. And by reducing the outer edges, what I mean is attaching the correct circle corners to those outer edges. So that's the plan. What I'm going to do first as an interim step, and I must stress this is not part of the reduction, is to place the outer edges. And the reason for that is it makes it much, much easier to reduce them, to see what needs to go where. So I'm going to pretend that this is a bona fide stage and of placing these outer edges, and to do that I'm going to first place the green white, which is the one between the two one faces. So I can see the green white there, and the white green has got to go to the yellow blue. So I'm going to turn it up onto a face around here because what I'm interested in is carrying these edge piece series out on two zero faces where the center pieces don't turn, because I don't want to disrupt the circle edges that I've already done. Now you'll notice that I need to get that green part onto there, and that's why I've turned it up around to there. So now I can carry out an edge piece series of these three pieces. So I'll move its position up, turn it on, undo those two moves, and you can see that when I do that, that has correctly placed the edge there. I'll turn that back, my setup move, and all the circle edges are exactly where they should be, and that green white has been placed. So that's the basic plan here, moving our pieces to two zero faces to ensure that we don't disturb circle edges and then place them. So what I would probably do next is to do the remaining white pieces. So what have we got? A white red here that needs to go to this position. Now if I can just somehow get it to that position without moving it, I will. And so what I mean is that that's got to go down here and be flipped, which means I want to turn its position up to there and then turn it on. And it so happens that in doing that, both of the faces that I would turn would be zero faces, and so that's exactly what I do. And again, you can see that all the circle edges are back and life goes on. So the next one here, what have we got? We've done the white green, the white red. I've got the white orange that needs to go here. Now the problem here is that I don't want to be turning that face, so I'd probably, well, I would have to move that off somewhere. The other option is that I've got a white blue up here that I could try and place. So I might place the white blue into this position, noting that it's got to go to white orange. So just do a bit of experimenting here, and that'll work nicely. I've now done some setups, so all I'm doing here is doing setups, putting that there and its position there. And now I see that I can turn these two faces here, which will enable me to place that correctly using my edge piece series. And then all I need to do is remember the order of the setups, and I think it was that one and then that one. Let's check. That's in place. White green's in place, white red's in place. So far so good. And you'll notice all the circle edges are still in place. What's the remaining white one? It's that white orange. Now, something like this, I would initially turn it around to here to see if that's going to help do anything, and doing that is not going to help so much. So the next thing I might do is, I know if I bring it up to here, these are all zero faces. So I'm going to remember that the white orange needs to go to the red. So if I do that to bring it around to there, I can now do an edge piece series like this, which will move that up into that position. That's done. I'll undo my setup moves, which was that one and then that one, and you can see that everything is back and all of the white outer edges are placed. I'd next move on to the green ones. So really I want to end up with the base and the back done, so I can then focus on the front here. So with the green ones, what have we got? We've got a green orange that can go and place down there. Now in this case I could normally turn this face and then that face, but you'll notice the pieces on the green face turn off, so I don't want to do that. I can in this occasion also turn this face and then that face, and the green orange will correctly place down there. So I'm going to turn it off, move its position up, put it on and turn it back, and that's placed nicely. The next one I'll do would be green red, and I'm looking to do something similar, so let's have a look if I can. Yes, that'll work. Just that single setup move means that I can then move pieces like this, and so once again I'm going to turn it off, position up, put it on and put it in, and then undo that setup move. And the green edges are mostly done. Just like to get that last one in position if I can find it. So the green yellow here has got to go onto that position. So let's have a look if I can turn that around. I need to flip that piece in order for the green to go here. So all that means is that I'll turn position around onto its position, undo those two moves, and I hope you can see that all of this is very, very simple turns. The hard part is just setting it up, and to be honest, it's not really that hard. So where does that leave us at the moment? We've done all the green edges, all the white edges, so we've now got those two, and that one there. So I would normally try and complete two of them on a side here. So let's have a look what we can do. We've got I'd probably go for the yellow. I don't know, actually it doesn't really matter. I'd probably put this one actually, the blue-orange. So at the moment that's not set up nicely. So what I'm going to do is put it up here as a setup, and now I've got that piece which can turn down here into its position, and then I'll undo those setup moves, and you can see that has been placed. The next one I'll do would be this orange-yellow. So where's that sitting? Well, the orange-yellow at the moment is not correctly positioned, so I'm going to use these three here to flip it, and very simple to do. You can see that that's now flipped, and now it's perfectly happy to go around to here. Now I don't want to involve this one, so what I'm going to do is in fact move these three pieces here. So that turn, then its position on, and then undo those moves. And again, because we were using zero faces, none of the circle edges have been affected, and you can see those two are now in position. Now that will leave us a couple of scenarios, or in fact probably three scenarios. One of them is that the last three edges will be placed, which is great. The other one is you'll have a three cycle of some kind. And the third one is this scenario, where we've actually got a swap of two edges. And I'm just going to place one of these edges to sort of prove it. So So place that yellow blue, and you can see now that we've got the blue red and the yellow red needing to swap. Now, I guess in the past I would have looked for an algorithm to do that. What I want to do in this video is avoid algorithms and show you an understanding of how to deal with it fairly simply. Sure, it'll be more moves, but you'll gain an understanding. So what's happened is, because we've got a swap of two outer edges, we've actually got a swap of two inner edges. So to deal with that, we need to move one face, one turn, and then we're going to put them back. So for example, I'm going to turn that face there. You can see that it has dislodged each of those edges, and what we need to now do is put them back using edge piece series. In other words, using the full 4 moves. So the first thing that I'm going to do is notice that I've only got the green face here, which I can turn circle edges on. If I try and carry out an edge piece series here, it won't actually move these edges that I'm trying to put back. So my first port of call would be to say, right, I've got to get the green to there, and I'd like the orange to go to something over here. And it doesn't really matter, but I'd like to keep this one intact if I can. So I'm going to use this one over here because that contains a circle edge which is going to go anyway. So that's my setup. Now I'm going to place the green to the orange. And you'll notice as I use the green face, things move as they should. Let's undo those setups, and you can see in doing that it protects these pieces. It places that green back, and now what that leaves us with is 3 pieces here to place. Let's do it fairly straightforwardly. Well, let's carry it out with one, to be honest. One more series and a couple of setup moves. So what I'm looking at is I've got to say the blue's got to go to the red, the red's got to go to that orange. So I've got to put that orange there before I start so I can do the edge piece series. But you'll notice this is not the green face. That means that I've got to move the green face into position, or the green center into position. Now, you remember that I said the first setup was to get this to here. Well, to move that orange piece, you can see that I need the green there. So I'll do a setup like that. Move the orange into position, and then do a further setup to put that green center on that face. So now all of these 3 pieces are involved, and they will turn and place where they should. We now carry out the edge piece series. Okay, that's done. We simply undo those setup moves that we had, and if you don't remember what they are, then you can write them down. And there's the last one, and you'll notice now that all of the white outer edges are still intact, which is great. All of the green outer edges are still intact. All of the circle edges are back. Let's have a look at the outer edges up the top. You'll remember that we started with a swap of 2. So we'd now go ahead and replace the ones that we wanted to do. So I would say let's try and get this yellow orange into position. So I'll do that with a setup move and then turn these 3 pieces. Undo my setup. Now when I look at things, I'll see that I have a 3 cycle of pieces which I did not have before, and so clearly that move of turning that one face fixed the problem. And so I'll now carry out my final 3 cycle, and of course because it's on the 0 faces, none of the circle edges are disrupted, and you can see that all of the outer edges are placed. Now I did say that wasn't actually part of the reduction, but it makes it much easier to deal with the reduction phase. And so we want to reduce these outer edges the same way we were doing it for Mercury. It's just complicated by the fact that we've got another one face. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to assume that you've seen how to do it on Mercury, and I'll carry out a couple here, but I'm looking for a blue piece, a blue circle corner on the bottom face which can turn. So you'll notice that enables it to move, which I can place in here. And so what I would do is move this green circle corner down to the bottom, and in fact I'm moving that outer edge because at the moment that green circle corner is attached to that outer edge wrongly. So let's move it down with an edge piece series, and you can see now the outer edge is there, and there's that green circle corner. Well, I want to put a blue one onto it, so I'll turn that on, and you'll notice now that is attached to there. I undo those moves to put it back. So I turn the left face down first. I now want to turn that right face down. I also did a turn of the white face, so I undo that. Now the first thing to notice is that all of the circle edges are returned and all of the outer edges are returned. Everything looks good. The next thing is that it's placed that blue circle corner in there correctly. Now I hope that makes clear why I wanted to place the outer edges, because it's very simple to see what circle corners go where. That must be a blue, that one must be a red, that one must be a green. So that was the plan. So I would then go around and do another blue one here in exactly the same way. Put the wrong circle corner on the bottom, turn the correct circle corner on and undo the moves. And you can see that that circle face is starting to build. Now I'm going to keep doing that. Where it gets a little bit trickier is the fact that I've got this green face. So what I want to do here is, in fact this stage is probably, it doesn't affect it that much. So I'll show you with this one, and in fact let's do it on the green face so I can convince you that there's no trouble when I'm placing these ones. So I'm going to place this green one into there. So I would turn the piece down with my edge piece series, turn that green corner on, and then undo those moves, and then undo that setup. Now let's have a look. All of the circle edges are still intact, the outer edges are still intact, and that green one has been placed. Nothing else has been touched. So that's the plan. I'm going to keep doing that for all of this top section because that's the easier part, and then cut back in after that. Alright, well at this point all of these top circle edges are done, and if it was the Mercury, what I would do, or the Venus in fact, what I would then do is turn it over and place what were the bottom ones now, but are now the top, and I would move the white face, or the white centre, onto the bottom so that these things could turn. Now the added difficulty here is that I've also got a green face, and what happens is if I don't take care of that, it's going to knock out some of these ones that I've already done, which are now down the bottom. So that's the thing to be aware of. So I proceed in the same sort of way. I'll notice that there's a blue one here which I'd like to place, let's say, into that one there. So I've got 0 faces here. The first thing I've got to do is get a 1 face to the bottom, and in this case the green face can go to the bottom because it pushes the white face to the back, and that's where I need the 2 faces to be. One of them on the bottom, the other at the back. If that happens, this will work without trouble and it will not dislodge anything else that we've done. So let's now put a blue circle corner from here onto that position in the standard manner. Everything appears to be completely mucked up, but it'll all come back. Undo our setups there. Now you remember that our last setup was just turning that face there. Let's take stock. Firstly, all of these ones on the bottom, the ones that we just completed, are still done, and we've just gone and placed that blue. So that's the plan. What else have we got? We've got a blue here. Let's do the same thing there. Get that one done. So we'll turn down the green face to the bottom and the white faces at the back. You can see once the setups are done, the procedure is precisely the same. There we go. So those blue ones now are done. Next I would see that I've got a green or a red, so let's attempt to do them. Let's put that green one into there. Now, this time, for the setups, what I need to do is have one of them at the back, one of them on the bottom. So if I just turned it like that, that would be no good because the white's on the front. If I do another turn, that's perfect because now the white's on the bottom, the green's at the back. So I remember that I'm trying to place this green into there. Let's go for it. Undo setups, which were 2 turns of that face, and that one's in. I've now got a red one here, so let's place that red into there. Again, check my setups. Now it gets a little more tricky because I've got one on the top and one on the side. So what I want to do is move the white face to the bottom, and before I start I'm going to move the green face to the back. And you'll notice that it doesn't actually affect the pieces that are involved here. So I'm moving this white to there, and I'm going to replace it with this red piece. Let's do it. There's the white, come down to the bottom, replace it with the red. I first undo that setup move. Now, I think, what were my setups? Well, I changed the white to the bottom first, and then I moved the green to the back. So I've got to get that green to the left, and then put the white on the top. Let's have a look. These ones down the bottom, they're all still there. They have not been affected. I've got the blues and the reds in. I've got one green left here and a couple of oranges. Now it starts getting interesting because I don't actually have any pieces that I could use on the bottom here. So they'll be either up the top or in other positions. So the first thing I might do is say that I'm going to put an orange from here onto the bottom. And so I'm going to turn it onto the bottom so that I can use it to replace that green. Now that it's on the bottom, I carry out my setups in the same way that I normally would. So the first thing is I've got to get a white face to the bottom and then my green face to the back. And now I've got those three circle corners in position, ready to go, and I just have to remember those setups. Okay, so the actual sequence has been carried out. What were my setups? Well, the first thing I think is that I did that, and the next thing, I can do this in one move, is I turned the center slice, and I actually had to turn that. So when I do that, we'll have a look around and see that things are still where they should be. I've got one orange to go and one green to go. Everything else that we've done is still intact. Now as we look around, we can see that all of the central faces have now been completed. They have their little circle corners attached to the correct outer edges. So now when I move that particular outer edge, it always takes that green one with it. Now it just leaves us the yellows and the whites to deal with. So it's easiest now to hold the puzzle like this with the white face on the bottom, and what I'm trying to do is to, what's the easiest way to explain this? Get a white into that position first. So I'm going to turn the white down to there, and I now want to cycle the white to another yellow or white and have a third yellow that's going to replace that. So in actual fact, what we've been doing all this time is a 3 cycle of circle corners like that, and it's the one that's here or here or here that actually goes up into that position. So now that I've done the setups, the only thing I need to check is whether I have my green face at the back. So let's take stock and remember what the setups were. The first one I can easily get out of, put that there. Okay, I then turned down prime, and I need to get the green to the back. Now I'm good to go. What did I say? Down prime, green to the back. So let's bring the green there. Let's do a down turn. Whoop, and then let's do that. And you'll see now we've only got the one piece left to deal with. Now, as we look around, what we'll see is that all of the circle edges are still intact, the outer edges are where they should be, and every outer edge now has its correct circle corners attached. So that means that when I come to solve it as a circle cube, they'll all go with it. And that completes the hardest and the longest phase, the reduction phase. Alright, well the last stage of the solve is much quicker, you'll be happy to know, and it's placing the corners. And I think the method that I'm going to use, it can be a little tricky to get the corners perfectly into their spot. So what I'm going to do is try and do that, but if I can't, I'm just going to put it in without worrying about orientation and deal with the orientation later. Now the two one faces are these two here, or the two one face corners that are on both one faces. There's white green corners, so I'm going to try and place them first. And what do I notice? I've got a green, white, red that needs to go across here. I'm going to be using the corner piece series to move corners around, and if I can orient them at the same time, so much the better. That will go across to that direction, so that's perfectly set up for me. I'm going to place, obviously I don't want to turn a one face when I'm doing these turns, so the left, the up and the right faces are those that will be involved. They all need to be 0 faces. If they're not, they'll take circle corners with them. So because I've got the green face on the top here, I'm simply going to turn that to the back as a setup. Now I can move that corner over to there, and this is the corner piece series. You'll find a link to a video on it in the description of every video on this channel. Alright, let's undo the setup. And what you'll notice is that firstly the corner has been correctly placed. Secondly, even though all the outer edges seem to come away from where they should be, they've all come back at the end. Alright, well the next piece I'm going to try and place is this green, white, wherever it is, green, white, orange, into that position. That's a little bit trickier because it's far away, so let's see what I can do. I noticed that if I set up there, I've actually got it into a position where it can roll along an edge. So the only issue now, I don't have to remember that move, but the only issue is I've got to get that green face away from the left. In this case, I'll put it to the back. And remember, because we're turning only 0 faces, that little red circle corner there is not going to be affected. So let's turn that into position. Here we go, the sequence is done. Undo the setup, undo the other one, and you can see that now both those white green corners are in. Fantastic. Now this white, blue, red corner is in but not oriented. I'm going to leave it there and orient it later. I'd like to get the white, blue, orange in if I could. Let's have a look here. We notice that my white face is at the back, which is good. I'll notice that if I turn that as a setup, that corner can now roll across here. But I've got the green on the side and I need that down the bottom. So I'm going to do that simple setup, and now I can move the corners like that. Everything looks a complete and utter mess, but be assured it's not. Once we undo these setups, it'll all come back, and you can see that's exactly what's happened. So I've actually managed to place that third corner correctly. This was the one that was in position, and that now leaves me with the 4 yellow corners on the top. Now the yellow, blue, red is in position but needs orienting, so we've got 3 more that'll need to be cycled. It looks like the yellow, green, orange has got to go here, so that's the direction I'm heading. I've got the white on the bottom, I need the green at the back, so I'll do the setup. And now put those corners into position. Undo the setup, and we'll see that everything is now permuted. The only thing I've got to do is orient these outer corners. And to do that, I'm not going to use the corner piece series, I'm going to use a sune plus sune mirror. And to carry out the sune plus sune mirror, I want the 2 faces to be 0 faces. And so I'm going to place the corner that needs twisting anti-clockwise at the front left, the one that needs twisting clockwise at the front right. So I've got one here that needs to go anti-clockwise, so that'll be at the front left. This one does not need twisting clockwise, this one does. So I'm going to put it into position first as a setup. Now, you remember that I said I wanted my left, up and right faces to be 0 faces. Let's see how we can accomplish that. What I can do, I've got the right and the up. I need to get that away. So in order to do that, I'm just going to turn it to the back. So that's the setup that I'll remember. Now I can carry out a sune and its mirror, and it'll twist these 2 corners only. There's the sune. There's its mirror. Now let's undo these setups. What on earth were they? I think that was the first one and that was the second one. And you'll notice that that one is now correctly twisted, so is that one. Accomplished our goal, and we've just got 2 more corners to go. So this time, this is the one that needs to go anti-clockwise, so this will be at the front. I'm going to turn this one to the back. And very nicely we have these 3 faces, all 0 faces, so no further setups are needed. And we can now orient the 2 corners. Okay, undo that setup move, have a look around and see that our crazy 3x3 Earth is solved.